Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Hey, listen, do not forget, Preterist Pilgrim Weekend 2020 is right upon us, okay? July the 9th through the 11th. Now, of course, as I've announced many times, our on-site Preterist Pilgrim Weekend will not be held this year at the Ardmore Convention Center due to the COVID outbreak. And matter of fact, we've had quite a little spike in number of cases right here in Carter County. We've been super fortunate so far in regard to the very, very low incidence of infection. But, you know, it's changing just a little bit. Nonetheless, pardon me, instead of having the on-site Preterist Pilgrim Weekend 2020, thanks to my absolutely awesome webmaster, Alan Morton, we're going to have a virtual Preterist Pilgrim Weekend 2020. It's going to be held on the dates that we had designated for the on-site seminar, only you're going to be able to go to YouTube and just click on it, and in the allotted time space that we would have held the speeches during the on-site seminar, lo and behold, you'll be able to watch totally free of charge. Now look, you know, if you want to send us a gift to help pay for the cost, it still costs money. Costs money to pay our speakers, all right? That hasn't changed at all. So anyway, if you would wish to help us with that, we would appreciate it so very, very much. But I want you to take advantage of that. Now, you can go to YouTube, and you can look up Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, and it will bring you right there. You have night one, day two, and then, of course, there will be day three. And we've got a great lineup. Our theme is the book of Revelation. You don't want to miss this, all right? This is our very first time to have a virtual Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. We've done live streaming in the past, and my goodness, the response has been absolutely fantastic. But we've never done a complete seminar. And don't forget, I tell you what, you do not want to forget, we're going to have a Preterist Pilgrim Weekend virtual book table. Now, I happen to know that Alan has spent a tremendous amount of time setting this book table up. So here's what we're doing. This year, you know, a lot of you buy your books, your Preterist books, by coming to the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend because we give great discounts and there's no shipping. Well, okay, this year for the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, and we will extend this offer for a short period of time. It will not be a permanent offer, but you can purchase any of the material, pardon me, any of the materials that we offer at a significant reduction of price. Plus, when you order over $10 worth of materials, there will be no shipping charge. And I got to tell you, I am super excited, all right? I am introducing this year my brand spanking new book. I've told you about it previously, but it is entitled Watching for the Parousia, Were Jesus' Apostles Confused? In this book, I confront head-on the foundational assumption, which is a false assumption, by the way, that when Jesus predicted the fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple, the apostles were just totally shaken. And they automatically assumed, wrongly, confusedly, well, okay, if he's talking about the destruction of Jerusalem, he must be talking about the end of time. He must be talking about his coming at the end of time, at the end of the Christian age. And so the commentators, based upon that wrong assumption, for which there is not one iota of proof, proceed to interpret the entire Olivet Discourse within the framework of the following assumption. Number one, the apostles asked about to follow Jerusalem. Yep, that generation fulfilled. Number two, oh yeah, now we're talking about your coming and the end of the age. That must refer to the end of the Christian age and the end of time. Sorry, that was not in the apostles' questions. I am absolutely not aware of any other book that confronts the false assumption concerning Matthew 24 and verse 3. Now, this book will normally sell for $18.95, but during Preterist Pilgrim Weekend and for the entirety of the month of July, there will be a very special introductory price for this book. You do not want to fail to take advantage. You're going to absolutely love this book. I'll guarantee you the wealth of information, the wealth of evidence to prove that the apostles were not in fact confused. They were not ignorant. They were not wrong to link the destruction of Jerusalem, the end of the age, and the coming of the Lord. We have Old Testament documentation. We have documentation from Jesus himself. We even have documentation, by the way, from Josephus, from the rabbis, and even some post-AD 70 documentation, believe it or not, from the patristics. Ton of information in here. So, July 9th through the 11th, this book will be introduced at a very special introductory price. Okay, now, we're looking at Matthew 24:37 and following, which, of course, follows verse 36, in which we are told, okay, in verse 36, Jesus said, "But of that day and hour knows no man, but the Father only." So he must be changing the subject from the destruction of Jerusalem and his coming in that event. And by the way, don't forget, the amillennialists and the postmillennialists admit Jesus came in the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. So they admit that you have the coming of the Lord, the judgment, in AD 70. Then they shift gears and they say, yeah, but after verse 36, it's talking about the end of time. And they try to make an argument based upon the terminology of those days versus that day. Now, I've already shared with you some on this, and I'm almost out of time already. Good grief. So I just want to share with you, I want to confront one argument here that is often given. We are often told, well, in the time before the fall of Jerusalem, it was a chaotic time. It was a time of war and rumors of wars, of famine, earthquake, pestilence, etc. A time of turmoil. But you see, in the days leading up to the final coming of the Lord, men are going to be going about their regular business. It's just going to be life as normal. And therefore, there's no signs of that. Well, in the first place, I want you to notice Matthew chapter 24 and verse 42. Now remember, in Matthew 24, 4-34, Jesus gave signs. Well, since there are signs, what are the signs there for? They're there for people to watch for, to see, to know, to understand, as Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 32, when you see these things come to pass, then know that the day of the Lord, is at hand, even at the door. So, what are signs for? They're signs to watch for. So in Matthew 24 verse 42, Jesus tells his apostles. Now remember, he's still speaking to that same group of apostles that were with him on the Mount of Olives. He hasn't shifted to a timeless reference of you. He told them to watch for the signs, verses 8 and following, and now he says, watch therefore, for you do not know the hour that your Lord is coming. Now, let me ask you a question. If there is nothing to watch for, then why did Jesus tell them, to watch for something? I mean, after all, that it doesn't even make good nonsense to say, well, there's nothing for you to see. There's nothing to watch for prior to the coming of the Lord. So be watchful. You see, it absolutely makes no sense. But what about this issue of tumultuous times with signs versus normal times and no signs? Well, I want you to notice, first of all, that Jesus refers to the days prior to his coming as the days like it was in the days of Noah. Now, I shared with you last week, in the days of Noah, there were absolutely signs of the coming flood. Would anyone deny that? Wasn't the building of the ark proof positive that something was coming? Was not the completion of the ark a sign that the, quote, end was near? Was not the gathering of the animals into the ark a sign that the day was arriving and was at hand? And the fact that Noah was a preacher of righteousness for 120 years, he wasn't telling them, the flood is coming, the flood is coming, the flood is coming, it's coming upon you. Was Noah saying, look guys, I got to tell you, one of these years by and by, maybe a gazillion generations from now, we don't know the day and the hour, but one of these years, one of these generations, the flood is coming? Or was Noah saying it was coming upon you, this generation, just like Jesus said in Matthew 24, verse 34, verily I say unto you, this generation will by no means pass until all of these things are fulfilled. Noah did not preach a far distant, protracted, delayed flood millennia away. Jesus did not predict the day of his coming as a far distant, 2 millennia and counting, delayed event. As it was then, so it will be in the days of the Son of Man. All right, out of time. Hey, thanks again for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. Don't forget, be looking for my brand new book during Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, July 9th through the 11th, 2020. You don't want to miss this special introductory offer. You're going to love this book. All right, I'll see you on the flip side.